How you going, everyone? This is Omega, back with another video. Um, I just want to have a quick talk about ideology, and obviously in society we're seeing a socialist leftist ideology sort of sweeping across the Western world, giving way to basically empowering minorities. That's what the whole idea of socialism does, is to bring down the establishment and to empower the so-called downtrodden. But, you know, I just want to look at ideology because, we have to sort of approach this with a logical mind. We have to approach ideologies with a logical mind. And I don't really think any ideology is above scrutiny. And I think, we have all of these issues confronting us in the Western world today. Feminism, obviously, is an ideology, in its purest form. Feminism is not such a bad thing, but feminism in its purest form has really achieved everything it set out to achieve. And so more radical forms of feminism have now, immersed, like third wave feminism. Because they've been basically given everything they want to, from a civil rights perspective, they've really got nothing better to do with themselves anymore. If you think about a movement, once it's achieved what it wants to achieve, what is it going to do? Disband? Because the fact of the matter is, people like Anita Sarkeesian and Emma Watson, who, by the way, made $40 for opening weekend of a new movie, which was very, very funny, are making livings out of it. They're making thousands of dollars. They're getting donations. They're, studying this movement and that movement. There's always got to be another movement to fund, their next, to fill up the bank account, and they need money for the next project, etc., etc. But, I guess the integrity of a lot of these groups really comes through when you start to scrutinize their ideologies and how they react to that. And obviously, a lot of groups think they are just above reproach. They think they're completely justified for various reasons. But when you actually pull apart and scrutinize and you look closely at the ideology, you start finding flaws. But so, one of the problems, with Islam, for example, is the fact that there are flaws in the ideology. Okay. Now, I'm not a Muslim hate preacher. What I am is somebody who's simply sat down with the ideology, looked at it and read it. And when you actually see events that are happening across the world, I'm seeing that ideology, that exact ideology being manifest. That's what I'm trying to, have been talking about on my previous videos. Now, like I said, there are a lot of Muslims who don't even follow the ideology. They identify as Muslim. They're born into Muslim families. They don't identify with this radical ideology at all. But it's the 10%. As I said, if you go to Palestine, for example, it's the 10% which embrace the extreme ideology. It's much higher in Palestine, actually, than 10%, because the government itself has taken on the anti-Jewish tenets of the Quran, and basically, used it and turned it into a political movement. It's sort of a theocracy there. And it's just gone completely out of control. A lot of people on the left sympathise with Palestine because of a lot of the propaganda that comes out of there. But when you sit back and you look at the ideology, you can very quickly understand why they're doing what they're doing. Why they're attacking Jews, because they've actually got a theological mandate to do so. It's not about oppression, it's a theological mandate of Islam to remove Israel out of that whole area of the world. So obviously I've done some YouTubing with a bunch of other YouTubers about Black Lives Matter, and I had 4 African Americans on the panel, and it was a great debate, and it was a great discussion, because these guys they weren't race baiting, they weren't making excuses because of the colour of their skin, and nor should any of us. We were just examining the ideology of Black Lives Matter and talking about how we ended up in a situation with police officers being shot down, how we end up in a situation where rhetoric like all white people are racist is being used. And if you look at people like Anita Sarkeesian, all things are problematic, all things are racist, all things are misogynistic. She comes out with these broad generalizations which really highlight the stupidity of the ideology. So I think we need to have rational minds in this modern era, and it's predominantly coming from the conservative side. Conservatives traditionally, will rationalise, ideas. They'll talk about it and debate ideas, and if it's a bad idea, they get rid of the idea. But the left obviously has, they create a narrative, and no matter what you say or do, they have to stick to the narrative, because once they betray that narrative, the whole house of cards comes down. So, look, I just encourage people to approach things with a rational mind, approach it without a bias and with a rational mind, and we can deduct with reasoning whether something is a good ideology or not. And look, at the end of the day, you don't have to fully agree with somebody else's ideology. You really don't. What matters is how that ideology affects wider society and how it affects us as individuals. I'm not a great advocate of the LGBTI movement, not because of because I hate gays or anything like that, but because the radical 10% within the LGBTI community want to use the changing of the marriage definition as a platform to basically say to all of society, now all of you must accept homosexuality taught in schools, you must accept our orthodoxy, you must accept it. And if you don't, you're a bigoted racist. Now that's, or a bigoted hater of the LGBTI. Now that's a totalitarian ideology. But because of who they are, no one wants to touch it with a 10-foot barge pole, because no one wants to look homophobic or be publicly shamed by the left. But at the end of the day, when you pull apart the ideology and when you pull apart the consequence of some of the things they're asking for, it's actually not that positive for the rest of society. So it's all about how these ideologies affect the rest of us. And, we're in a global community, and this global community is getting smaller and smaller every day. And we have to accept the fact that we are going to be offended by other ideologies. We have to accept the fact that we're not going to like them. But those groups and those ideologies have no right to impose themselves on a majority. They have no right to impose themselves on the wider community. There is such a thing as mutual respect, the idea of mutually respecting one another's differences and allowing people to believe what they want freely in a Western society. We don't want to end up like the theocracies in the Middle East. We don't want to end up like the communist regimes like in Russia and all this sort of stuff. And the only way to do that is to move forward with mutual respect for one another. Now, as I said, that ends when you're trying to force your ideology down someone else's throat. And for example, the Safe Schools program, which has been headed up by a Marxist socialist, a professed Marxist socialist, who has an agenda to basically brainwash children into an extreme far left ideology, starting at 4 years old. And, you know, for me, that's completely unacceptable. So when people talk to me about gay marriage, I say, you know, you just don't understand the consequence of, you know, what this opens up to. It's not the 80% of gays out there who just want to do what they want to do and get on with their lives. It's people like, she's a Green senator, and she said basically as soon as gay marriage is in, she's then going to be calling for religious freedoms to be, or, you know, freedom from religious organisations to have to capitulate to this stuff, all those protections removed. She wants them removed, and she wants to weaponise the anti-discrimination laws. And she's very, very vocal about that. Lee Rhiannon, that's her name, very vocal and very, you know, out with that. And, you know, you have to look at this totalitarian ideology and say, this is a bad ideology. So I just wanted to put that out there. I don't want people to get on my channel and think I'm some sort of bigot or some sort of hater. I'm looking at these things with a rational mind. I'm trying to you know, just to see how these different ideologies are going to fit into Western culture and civilization. I'm trying to work out how it's going to affect me and my family as an individual. And if it's going to affect me in a negative way, then I've actually got a mandate as a father, as somebody who's mandated to protect my family, to speak out against it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. If you want to subscribe to the channel, you're welcome to do that. Hit the like button if you want to hit the like button. And if you've got any comments, feel free to share them. I'm going to be doing some live streaming pretty soon with some friends. I'll be putting those videos on the channel, either liked videos or I'll upload them myself. And I want to keep it rational. I want to keep it balanced. And I just, you know, back and forward arguing and back and forward name calling, it just doesn't help anyone. So if you want to comment on the channel, give it, don't just get on here and start ranting and raving. Get on and actually give me something of substance, give me some facts, and I'll look at that. Thanks everyone, bye.